welcome to Shoes Off Inside with
Aloha.
me, Maylee, Kelly, and
Shoes
Karina.
off, shoes
How are
off,
you,
inside.
ladies?
Shoes off, inside.
I know. And one other participant, she's a guest today,
She's
is
a newbie.
my new rescue puppy, Darla. Yeah,
Oh my gosh, she's so cute.
Oh my God.
puppy kisses. She still has puppy breath.
Oh, I wish my
Yeah,
dog loved me.
that.
I know. She is now almost 14 weeks old. I rescued her 5 weeks ago when she was 9 weeks old from this group called Toby's Small Dog Rescue.
Oh
So,
my Lord. Look at that. That's the best.
it really is. But I'm like a sleep deprived new mother because
Yes, of course.
Yeah,
Of course.
all night,
Yes. Yeah.
all that stuff.
Nurture.
I'll
Oh
tell you
my
something.
God.
Having this new puppy, because I still have, of course, my other dog, Sugi.
Sugi. Yeah.
I needed a distraction from
Oh yeah, sure. Of course.
the world.
Yeah.
I really did. I was like, you know what? I think it's time to get another dog.
It's your daily dose of happiness.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's the serotonin boost.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Wait, how's Sugi doing with the new dog?
Much better.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
You've seen the progression. Yeah. If you follow May on
4
Insta.
solid weeks of like, she was not
Mhm.
she would be snapping at her and just literally was like, fuck you, get away from me. I mean,
She had to teach her. She had
Yeah.
to like socialize her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
she did. And she also had to accept the fact that this thing was not going away.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
now they play. There's still
good.
limitations, after a while, because then Sugi would be like, yeah, no, kid.
Enough. Yeah.
You know.
Enough. Yeah.
Because how old
Yeah.
is he?
Huh?
How old is Sugs?
Sugi's going to be 9 in June.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, she's like a 60-year-old woman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
She is the queen. She's
yeah,
the queen.
yeah.
Yeah.
queen bee. So,
I don't
she's
want to
like-
have babies around me right now. Like, I don't blame her.
Exactly. That's why I was just like, what am I doing becoming a new mom at this age?
Yeah.
Oh, but it's so worth. Oh my God, it's so worth it.
and she has this overbite. Do you see it?
Oh, she does.
So guess
Oh my God.
She wants to name her middle name.
What?
Burns. Mr. Burns from The Simpsons.
Oh my God.
Remember, he was like,
Totally.
Yeah. So her middle name right now, according to my fiance, is Burns, and I'm
Is
like,
Burns?
That's adorable.
Oh my God.
I never noticed it at first.
oh no, you don't notice it, but
Yeah.
it's when you see her.
Yeah.
Yeah. There we go. There we
Okay.
go. So
All right.
cute.
Anyway, so that's my new addition to the family.
Congratulations.
But yeah, happy AAPI Heritage Month.
Happy
yes.
Asian American Native Hawaiian Pacific Islander.
HPI, yes.
Yeah, I know.
You can't
Sorry,
forget
I
us.
usually say AANHPI, but I think I got lazy.
We used to just say Asian Heritage Month,
Heritage
and then
Month,
became
yeah.
Asian American, and then became Asian Pacific Islander. It's like, oh,
Keep it
all
adding.
the iteration.
Keep
And
on
the
it.
umbrella kept getting huger. Yeah,
Mhm.
Which
because
is a good thing, which
we're
is a
those
good
people.
thing.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
So
Everybody in.
all of May we're celebrating. So we are together to do this show to talk about all things, Asian, but other topics as well. We want to try to talk about good things, but this show is also going to talk about how some small businesses are being impacted.
Are super affected. Yeah.
We're going to get to that in a couple minutes here. But
Yeah.
So what do you guys think about this?
Happy Pope Day, not Happy Pope Day. Habeas Popum, Popum,
Habeas
whatever. Yeah.
But that was quite a shocker.
As a
Right?
lapsed Catholic, I didn't know, Kelly, that you left the Catholic Church, but it's
Right,
giving you
yeah.
hope and happiness, and
Didn't know either. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you were Catholic.
I was
How
born
do
and
you
raised
feel?
Catholic. I was baptized in everything, did my first communion and everything, and then I just lapsed.
So what do you think?
yeah. What do you think?
I was
Leo.
super excited. I have to say, I was really excited about the whole experience of choosing a new pope.
Well, when that white
And
smoke started coming out, I was like, oh,
Already.
I
Well,
got
I was
excited.
traveling,
already.
so I didn't get to see the white smoke and stuff. But
Oh, yeah.
of course, coming from Vegas and knowing all these poker players and stuff, I was going around looking at the odds of who.
What was it saying? What was it
Well,
saying?
it didn't say specific names, but the odds were in favor of an Italian.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
That's what. Yeah. Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
Full
It was
Volvoni or whatever. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think the American was even on the
No,
list at
Dark Horse.
all.
He wasn't
That's
on
all the
short.
reports. Dark
Yeah, he was
Right?
Horse.
not on the short list.
Yeah.
He was
Yeah.
definitely not on the short list.
Yeah.
Anyway, let me get back to this because I found it. The odds for Pope was 53% Italian.
Mm-hmm.
Philippines was 21%. I was kind of going for the Filipino guy. I was
Yeah.
like, yes, Asian
I know.
American or Asian Pope. That would be
Asian
amazing.
Papa. Asian
Right.
Papa. Yeah.
Hungary was 7.2%.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
And Ghana was 7%.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe from the African continent. Yeah.
Yeah,
because,
so American was not even on
No.
the radar.
No,
Yeah.
and the reason why is because America has been considered so dominant in the world, and
Right.
so in the past they're like, there's no way an American would become pope because of their sort of geopolitical dominance, right?
Right.
Mhm.
So this kind of goes to show like what the cardinals were thinking about the state of the world
Yeah.
and the state of America.
Yeah.
That
and
we're
what's going on.
sliding.
Yeah.
Fascism,
The fascism. Yeah. Christian
right.
nationalism and the idea of Christian nationalism within the Catholic Church and how the Catholic Church can be a stand up straight barrier to that rise of nationalism under the Christian banner. So I think it's a very, very conscientious decision.
It was very deliberate. I think it was very
Mhm.
intentional, and all the analysts are saying the same thing. And also, this Pope, now Pope Leo, in the past was very active on social media apparently, and has
Mhm.
made definitely different comments on
Yep.
J.D. Vance and Trump
Liked and reposted. Yeah.
policy. So he's actually quite vocal about things that are against the beliefs of being Christ-like, being
Yeah.
true.
Yeah. Of what it
Wow.
means.
Or
Yeah.
giving voice to the voiceless,
Yeah.
So it's interesting to see his past activity,
Mhm.
and then the fact that he has served so much of his life overseas, right?
Mhm.
He's only spent a third of his life in America,
Mhm.
and the rest of the time he's been elsewhere. So
Mhm.
he really is kind of a global citizen. And what I love about that, having lived overseas for so long, when you live overseas that long, you have a totally different view of the world.
Yeah.
You have a more global,
Perspective.
international view of the world.
Yeah.
And it's more inclusive. It's more about like, okay, we're
all
together.
connected. Yeah. Yeah.
We're not some insulated country like a certain someone is trying to make us to be now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's an interesting choice. I
Yeah.
think it's hopeful.
Yeah.
I think it's giving a lot of people hope, even non-Catholics, even
Yeah.
people who aren't religious.
Yeah. And I think for a lot of us who don't really care or talk about religion, it's like he is actually of the underdogs because he's a White Sox fan, not a
Yes.
Cubs fan, out of
Oh,
Chicago. Yeah,
Yes.
he's a
You know what?
White Sox fan. That's like being a Clippers fan versus a Lakers fan, and
oh,
or,
wow.
or an Angels fan versus a Dodgers fan. So
Yeah,
it's that kind of really rooting and fighting and speaking up for
underdog.
the underdog. So
Yeah.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah,
It's brilliant.
That's actually a great parallel.
I love the idea that like the Pope is into sports. That in itself feels progressive, right?
I know,
Yeah.
but you know what it is? It's just like he is a typical American from Chicago.
Yeah, Chicago. Yeah.
Chicago, right? His father was, I think, like a superintendent or something like that. His mother, I mean, they were just like middle class.
Middle class. Yeah.
Were they immigrants?
No,
Parents were not. No.
parents were not.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
He's wanted to be a priest for little
he was sick.
kidhood. Yeah,
Yeah.
since he was a little
Yeah.
kidhood.
They've been
Yeah.
interviewing his two older brothers, and
Yeah.
they have been saying that
Hilarious.
he was like, they were like, we wanted to like play with toys and soldiers and this and that, and all he wanted to do was like pretend he was a priest and give us communion
What?
with they said little Necco
With
wafers.
the-
Remember those
yeah.
panties and
Yeah.
Necco wafers?
How
He would
funny.
use
It's so
that as
funny.
communion bread, like the wafers.
Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
hilarious.
I think it's
I heard an
hilarious.
interview with one of the brothers who said that there was a woman, I think one of their neighbors or something, who said that he was going to be the first American priest when he was only like 7 or 8 years old. Or Pope, rather. First American Pope. Yeah.
wow.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
when you're called, you're really called.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah.
pretty clear.
Yeah.
My
it's
mom
amazing.
actually thought that she wanted to become a nun when she was young.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I come from a
Wow.
very religious family.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no,
I am definitely the outsider, the actor.
you have a spirituality about you too. So
Yes, that's
we
indeed. That's
all
yeah.
practice in different
Caring
ways.
Thank
about the
you.
earth and yeah,
Oh
the
my
mana.
gosh.
Yeah, the
Yes.
mana
Yeah, yeah,
of
Yes.
the
yeah.
energy.
So,
Sure.
well,
Sure,
we'll
sure, sure.
see what Pope Leo has in store, but it's pretty exciting, especially in his first mass. I guess he started off in English.
Oh.
Yeah, today.
Oh, he did? Okay.
Yeah, he
Okay.
started off in English,
Yeah.
and then he switched to Italian. But you know, the fact that he speaks multiple languages, I'm sure, was also something that was, you know, of interest to the
Yeah.
cardinal because he can now communicate with so many more people. But
Yeah.
it's exciting. I mean, again, in such a dark time, you know, of a lot of despair, it's nice to see something that kind of brought everyone together for a moment, you
Yeah.
know, of celebration and joy, which is
Yeah.
what we all need more
Yeah.
of. But yeah, so switching gears, this is not as joyful. But the reason why we wanted to do this episode is because of the tariffs, right? The trade war that's going on, and especially with China, with the tariff being 145% for any imports coming in from China, and that's really hurting a lot of businesses. Well, you know, most businesses, but especially
Small businesses. Yeah.
Okay, my dogs are, of course, have decided to start playing now.
Oh, cute.
Sugi, no growling at your sissy. Okay. So our thought was to talk to a couple of small business owners, Asian American female business owners who are going through this right now and having to deal with so much uncertainty because either their entire product is made in China or part of a product is made in China and they're being impacted, right? I don't know how you guys feel about this, but I'm not even a business owner. I just get so mad, you know, that this is happening to these people, you know?
I worry for the population, and I also worry for the consumers, not just the business people, but the consumers. It just seems like prices are going to go skyrocketing, and people are struggling enough as it is.
Yeah. But what I take away from these interviews that, you know, Kelly, May, and I are lucky enough to participate in is the optimism and the American can-do spirit from both our
Resilience,
subjects. Yeah.
resilience,
Resilience in
yeah.
action.
And
And
then
so that's what we take away from it.
add to that the Asian female, like, you know, can do attitude of like, I'm not fucking going to give up. So,
Yeah, exactly.
so yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Our first guest is Eleanor Mak. I wanted to say it in the Chinese way, Mak, but it's, you know, westernized, Eleanor Mak.
Yeah.
But she started a wonderful company in 2022 called Jilly Bing Dolls because she saw a lack in representation when it came to dolls for girls, right? There were
Especially having a daughter who was looking
Right.
for, you know,
you know, as we all know, growing up, we had no dolls that looked like us
Right.
at all, not even close, right? So
Right.
she decided to take it upon herself to create a doll that looked like an Asian American girl.
Yeah.
She had no experience in doll making. She had no experience in the toy, you know, industry whatsoever, but she wanted to do this, you know, for her daughter and all other little girls, you know, in the world that, you know, needed something like this. So unfortunately, she is going through a really rough time because of these tariffs. Her dolls are made in China, and she's going to explain why. Very specific reasons why they're made in China. So we spoke to her, and she, you know, I mean, we have to honor her resilience and her determination to make it through this. So here is that interview. Hi, Eleanor. Welcome to Shoes Off Inside. Good to see you.
Hi. Thanks for having me.
Hi.
You're saying that I had Eleanor on the show a couple of years ago when you first started Jilly Bing in 2022, when it was the Mei Li show. But it was so nice to see the progress of your company. A really short period of time. So let's
and coming out of COVID too. I mean, that's the added stress that was there.
Right.
What year did you start it?
22.
22.
Early 22.
So it's only been about 3 years.
Yes.
Yeah.
Does it feel like it?
Oh, you know, I've heard the saying that I love, like every year in startup time is like 2 to 3 years of real lifetime, just because so much gets compressed, so much happens, so many hours are worked. So yes, it feels like a 10-year-old business or third child that I'm raising.
But let's be honest. I mean, we're going to get to this. This is the reason why we wanted to talk to you today, is because you say, you know, being an entrepreneur, yeah, time is like condensed and it feels like an eternity. Now, because of this whole trade war and these tariffs, it must feel like you're going through like hell 10 times over. I mean, tell us, you know, where you're at right now. How are you feeling?
Right this moment, I'm fine. I think you know, sort of everything has sort of settled in. We've made some tough decisions to put, you know, sort of the company in a good spot. But I think the tariffs itself, you know, first hearing about it and then trying to figure out how to make it work, it was, you know, for small businesses like ours, it's like, it's really killing us, right? It's making a tough journey even tougher. And, you know, in some ways, it feels like these very same policies that were meant to protect small businesses were really negatively impacting us the most.
Yeah, right. Of course, because, you know, you look, the costs that go into making any kind of product, it's not cheap. But then when you're slapped with 145% tariff
today,
the entire Jilly Bing doll is made in China, correct?
Yeah. And, you know, yes. So our dolls are entirely made in China. As a matter of fact, you know, 70% of the world's toys are made in China.
Right.
And even more so, when I started this company, I looked high and low, May, for manufacturing in the US. You know, we have 2 young kids, I've got 2 elderly parents, and between the travel, the time, you know, the time zone differences, the language, like there was nothing I wanted more than to produce our dolls here in the US. And I looked high and low, and every lead led to the same thing. In fact, there were no factories. It was a dead end, right? These toy factories that had once upon a time existed in the US had, shut down.
That all shifted.
So it wasn't even as though it was going to cost more. It was literally just, there was no option.
There was no option, you know, at least 3 years ago for a small business like me who very much wanted to keep production here in the US, you know, for the vinyl dolls, right? So these are plastic, you know, and I can talk more about the manufacturing process. There was nothing in the USA. Let me start with one, you know, why can't dolls be made in the US, right? So let, you know, I don't know about all tariffs, but I think specific to dolls, what I learned, you know, 3 years ago, I Googled how do you make, you know, the story, you know, for those of, you know, you probably all know, I started Jilly Bing because I couldn't find a doll that looked anything like my Asian American daughter.
Your daughter.
Yeah.
Right. What I found in the toy aisles in San Francisco in 2022 was like, it was like these dolls that like you only knew they were Asian. You know, Mattel had this Asian Barbie panda doctor. So the only reason she was Asian is because she's a panda doctor, because that's what we are. Or it was this doll with like big round eyes dressed in a kimono. So I still remember Googling, how do you make a doll? And watching all these YouTube videos. Fast forward 3 years later, now that we've produced 2 dolls, we've created a few thousand, you know, sent them to a few thousand homes around the country. Making a doll is incredibly difficult. There is a tremendous amount of skills involved in every aspect of the doll. You know, and I can, from the hair through the shoes, you know, I've got this doll here. This is our first Jilly Bing doll.
Yay, she's so cute.
She's so adorable.
Thank you.
Adorable.
Whose face did you use as a prototype?
Yeah, we use, some people say she looks like me now.
I was just going to say.
I think so. Yeah, exactly.
Does she look like your daughter?
You know, I think it's like, you know, like the dog owners, where you're like the dog and the owner starting to look like the same. Like, people are like, you and your dog are starting to look alike. And I'm like, well, no, I never used my face. I used my daughter's face. I used other Asian American girls, right? So the eyes, the nose, the expressions, we really try to capture, you know, in one doll, right? This was our first doll, the essence of, you know, what Asian American girls are. You know, they're not, my daughter is certainly not demure. She's like loud with a capital L, right? So we want this doll to have like energy and feist, and, you know, obviously no shoes in the house. And we have this doll.
Thank you.
My daughter takes off the doll shoes. But what I want to say is, just looking at the hair as an example, like I never knew this. Every single one of our dolls' hair is manually rooted through a sewing machine. So they take a batch of this nylon hair, they weigh it to make sure there's consistency. And there is someone taking the doll's head and like literally it's like you're sewing something through a machine, but it is the doll's head being rooted. There's roots, right? So they're manually just, maybe you can just, I want to show you this.
Oh, that's
why
you can
See, it's all done
like other
by
dolls.
hand.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So when you, and
labor intensive, that's labor intensive.
Labor intensive, and there are different skill sets. Like my doll goes through, I don't, off the top of my head, there's like someone who's specific to rooting the hair. There's someone who's specific to cutting the doll's hair. This is not like your average hairstylist, right? This is a doll hairstylist cutter. Someone then who braids the doll's hair. Someone who assembles the doll. So, my point is that it is a heavily manually labor intensive process.
How many hands do you think end up touching that doll
Touching
before
the doll.
it ever goes into a package?
I know this sounds like you probably off the top of my head, at least more than a dozen.
Yeah,
More than a
at least, yeah. I would imagine.
More than a dozen. So
Yeah.
I, having seen all this, they put me on the floor and I tried to like assemble my doll, put it into my box. It took me half an hour to do one doll. They yanked me off the line because I just could not. I was such a bottleneck to the production process. But I wanted to understand, time it takes per doll. But there are people who specialize in spray painting. They've got to put a mask over her face, spray paint the blush area, spray paint the lip area. Wow. She's got blush on her elbows. Someone's got to manually make this dress. The details.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. So this is good that you're explaining this in such detail, because what people need to understand, especially Americans who, aren't used to manufacturing anymore. We don't have that anymore. And guess what? We don't really want that anymore in this country.
Nobody wants to do that kind of work. Yes.
Right? So therefore, they need to understand, if this was brought back to the US, first of all, who's going to do that job? Okay. Second of all, how much is that going to cost?
Right.
Labor.
Right.
Absolutely.
Have you calculated that, Eleanor?
So I don't know what it would cost to make in the US, right? So this doll, our Jilly Bing retails for $68. So she is a premium doll. And I have gotten a lot of questions around why is she so expensive? We manufacture in small batches. We've got to ship her over. We've got to ship her to the customers. We've got to market the doll. But, because she's a 14-inch doll, she's pretty heavy, right? So all the shipping costs. So my point there is that $68 is what I can, for my business to work. That is, manufactured in China by people who know what they're doing. I still have to sell at 68. So if I were to make this in the US, given the amount of labor involved, the math would not work. Customers shouldn't have to pay, $150, $200 for a doll like this, right? But I would think that's the kind of math we're looking at.
Isn't there a line of dolls called American Girl or something, American something or other? Are they not made in America?
I mean, if they were, American Girl is a $500 million business owned by Mattel.
That's right.
So they have their dolls they made in China.
Yeah. So Eleanor, what are you looking at right now then? Because right now we're recording this episode on Friday, May 9th. This weekend, apparently Scott Bessent, who is the Secretary of Treasury, is going to be meeting with the Chinese counterparts in Switzerland. Now, we don't know what's going to happen, but they're apparently starting maybe some preliminary talks. Donald Trump recently said, I think yesterday, I would consider 80% tariffs on China instead of 145. So that's half. But realistically, even 80%, would that even come close to helping you?
No. I mean, it's like,
right?
Right.
Yeah, let's be real. The people need to understand, they're like, look, he's willing to cut the tariff in half to 80%. Well, that doesn't mean shit, right? Because it's still 80%.
Yeah, I feel like it's a tactic I learned in negotiations, right? Like you start off with something so unreasonable, then you're like, when you make it half, it feels more reasonable. But the reality is, And one thing to point out or to share is that we're in a very fortunate position, Jilly Bing, because my factory at the beginning of this year announced it was closing down, completely unrelated to the tariffs. It was a heartache, but we scrambled. We found, financially, I dug into my savings a bit more so that we rushed inventory into the US. So that rushing of the inventory has actually become a silver lining for Jilly Bing. It allows us, as the tariffs were being rolled out, we had found a new factory. I had planned to build out more production, more dolls. But with the tariffs happening, I made the difficult decision of not producing anything right now this year. But we have inventory, which allows us.
You have inventory. Okay, yeah.
I do, which is not, yeah.
Yeah, can we ask? I mean, you don't have to tell us, but how long will that inventory last for you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm optimistic that it will last through the holidays. We may not have both dolls, but I am optimistic that we will get through this holiday season and be able to
not
deliver
enough to outlast Trump and his crazy tariffs.
Well, for me as a business, I would need to place my purchase order, probably by September, October, right? So that I have the next set of dolls. When the holidays sell out, I have more dolls coming in.
Right. Right.
So I am hopeful that between now and then, things
Something happens.
will change.
Yeah.
Things will change.
I mean, look, I will say that he seems to be blinking first. So we'll see what happens, right? And hopefully for your sake and so many other businesses that, it will somehow, the negotiations will go well and that, this tariff bullshit will end. But, as an AAPI business owner, and then May, it's AAPI Heritage Month, for it to be happening right now and for so many other AAPI small businesses that are being impacted, it's got to be, I don't know. I mean, for me, I find it really kind of sad that, you're suffering this way, when you're trying to do something that's so noble, right? In terms of representation and, kind of helping our cause, and especially, little girls who never saw themselves in toys. So I wonder if that comes to you and your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, I would say Jilly Bing was never meant to be about woke culture, right? It was simply little girls didn't have a doll that looks like them. And I wanted more children to get delight, feel the delight of walking down the toy aisles and be like, that doll looks like me.
Right.
So, in the last few years, we have heard from so many families and so many adult women about the joy Jilly Bing has brought to them. And to think that could all go away, right? If things don't change within this year is obviously really, really heartbreaking. For me, obviously, this company was started because I am proudly Asian American and I want my daughter and children like her to be proudly, proud of who they are. But also more than that, I think for me, I've always been taught that being an entrepreneur is like the American dream.
Right.
And right now it feels like a nightmare. There are so many things happening to businesses, API, just small businesses,
right?
Entrepreneurs happening to us, these that are completely out of our control. And that it feels not quite like a dream right now.
Yeah. What keeps you going though?
It goes back to my daughter, and I've had many, many moments like that. The first time we showed her a Jilly Bing doll, she just gasped in delight. She looks like me, Mama. She looks like me. She's got she's got black Momo, which is hair. She's pointing at her eyes, but I don't know. She's got the brows, but she can see herself in the doll. And in the last years, we have heard so much of that from Asian American children, from mixed Asians with our second doll. And I have plans for a boy doll, I have plans for a Blasian doll, and I want to be able to hear and see more of those moments. And it is moments like that I feel like our mission, the sort of true north, is just so I just can't stop, and I hope I don't have to stop.
Right, right, right. How can we help in terms of the time right now? Because I selfishly would like your inventory to sell out over the holidays so you can put in the order for September. But in terms of how it's directly amplifying and supporting and representing faces who look like ours for the little girls that, you know, your daughter's age, how can we ask the public to like post pictures on your website or your social media platforms to put up a doll and say, this is somebody that looks like me. This is somebody, Eleanor, who thought about how important it is to literally be seen in little playthings that are really, really foundational in our self-esteem.
You know, I think May knows this, right? At the start of this company, from, you know, people have asked us how we were blessed by so much media attention. And I said, you know what?
Yeah,
It was
yeah,
the
yeah,
Asian
yeah.
American journalists, right? It was the Vicky Nguyen's. It was like,
Yeah.
you know, and even Connie Chung, right? We got to meet Connie Chung. This is a total sidebar, but we got to meet Connie Chung. And my daughter, when she met
Yay!
Connie was trying to hold our doll for the photo. And my daughter was like, no, that's my doll. And I was like, Jilly, no, like,
Oh
you
my
know,
God.
but really, our, you know, we are where we are today because of people like you, right? Telling our stories, sharing our stories. And I think I would say about dolls, you know, there are some people who are like, I love it, but my daughter's not into dolls, or my daughter's too old for dolls. And when I say, like, a doll is not just this toy that you throw away, right? A doll is our child's first, like, imaginary friend. It's the first time our child makes sense of the world.
Yeah.
They say dolls are like windows and mirrors, right? For children, it's like a mirror. If the doll looks like them, but if it's also, we've had, you know, a good percent, you know, 20% of our customers are do not have Asian kids. And so I'll
That's
ask
so
them, like, we'll
great.
get orders to like Chattanooga or Des Moines, and I'll try to reach out to the family to try to understand what drew them to Jilly Bing. And they'll say, like, we're not Asian, but our children should have dolls that look like our friends. So our dolls can be a
Wow.
mirror into the Asian American world for non-Asian families. So
Yes.
20%? I'm
That is
That's amazing. No,
fantastic.
I
that
was just going to tell
is
you the
amazing.
story of how I saw this little girl once, little blonde, blue-eyed girl holding a black doll. And I thought, that's
yeah.
amazing. That's
Yeah.
so
That's the way the
awesome.
world should be. That's the way, because
Yes.
we grew up buying all the white presenting dolls. So of
Right, of
course,
Uh-huh.
course.
yeah.
Yeah.
We
Oh
do, Kelly. I have
wow.
this photo of two beautiful, you know, blonde hair, blue eyed little girls, both holding a Jilly Bing doll. And
Oh
that
my
moment, just
God.
like, you know, for us, right? It's like your mind has to do this, like,
Yeah, yeah,
whoa,
yeah.
It's like
wow.
Right?
Right. Yeah,
Because
the
you
first,
think that
yeah.
you're just doing this for our community, but
correct.
really it's reaching out even further than that.
What you've done, Eleanor, you've introduced this whole other idea and concept of reality because
Yeah.
it's real, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
A true
And I love
representation.
that it's reaching outside of the Asian community as
I know
well.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
20%. It's like that's mind blowing to me, actually.
Yeah.
Well,
It's
Eleanor,
exciting, right? Yeah.
yeah, let's
Yes.
circle back to that question of like amplifying. You said that, you know, it's
Yeah.
because of the API community that's helped you.
Yeah.
I believe that because I've seen it and it's
Yeah.
wonderful. But what else in this moment, because of what small businesses are going through,
Hmm.
through the tariffs and due to economic hardships that, you know, are coming, what else do you think the public should know and can do to help this current situation?
Businesses like us need your support, both
Hmm.
verbally and financially, right? We have sunk a lot of money into the company, but also kind of putting all this inventory in, right? Bringing it in. So we have dolls to sell, and we, you know, the more we can get out there, right? We are in Macy's and Toys R Us today, but if, you know, the more dolls I can sell, the more I can, you know, bring in the second, third doll into these major retailers. So, you know, I think ultimately we do need, you know, the support, right? Customers being willing to welcome our dolls home.
Let's wrap this up with one final kind of thought is that, you know, Eleanor, you were talking about the support that businesses like
Hmm.
yours needs in whatever way, you know, people can give it. And I think that's really crucial. Big, huge companies, you know, they can withstand, you know, these tidal waves of
Yeah.
economic uncertainty and tariffs and whatnot. But small businesses can't, right? You guys, you know, you struggle, and it's like any little blip can make or break your business. So I think we always have to be reminded of supporting small businesses. You know,
Yeah.
Don't always go to Amazon or Walmart or whatever and buy your shit. You know, think about the small businesses
Yeah.
that really need more of your help, right?
Yeah. It's the thoughtfulness and the investment in our communities and what we want to see for the rest of our lives, not just being able to pick and purchase, without a thought,
Right.
but it's about really,
Thoughts.
really investing in the smallness, which is the greatness of, what we're able to do as American entrepreneurs.
Eleanor, thank you so much for coming
Thanks for
on
having
and
me.
sharing your story again, but this time with the three of us.
Yeah.
And we are rooting for you. Of course, we're rooting for Jilly Bing. And hopefully you're going to weather this storm because it's a
Yeah.
pretty nasty one, but let's definitely hope that it's going to turn out because we want you to keep going.
Yeah.
Let's talk again and celebrate the next time we sell out our next sale at Macy's.
That's a deal.
We'll have our champagne ready.
Yes.
Amazing.
Exactly. Okay.
For
Take
sure.
care, Eleanor, and thank you so much. Good luck.
Thank
Thank you.
you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Again, I just wish that we had dolls that looked like us. I'll send you a picture, May, that maybe you can use because there's a picture of when I was 6 years old and my parents got me a doll, a life-size doll. And this is at Christmas because our Christmas tree is a Christmas present. And I have tears in my eyes because because the doll doesn't look like me, blonde, blue-eyed. And then I pulled out all the eyelashes. I try to dye her hair with, black pen or whatever. And you'll see because it's impactful and it's a lifelong thing. And so again, the idea for her to have a doll like this is it's just a mom trying to give her daughter something that would be meaningful. So just applauding her. Yeah.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I want the doll. I mean,
Yeah.
like she said, have the doll.
A little girl doll. A little girl doll.
I'm definitely going to be buying that doll, not just for Asian nieces and nephews.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love
And
the
nephews.
fact that she was saying that 20% of her customers are not Asian.
Are not Asian.
Isn't that awesome?
Yeah. So, all right. So we're now going to shift gears to another entrepreneur who we love because we love her product. Her name is Evelyn Wang, but she developed this product for silver gray hair like us. And we all use the product. This is not an infomercial. This is not trying to like promote her product. This is because we genuinely love the product and also love the story of why she developed it, but also what she's going through now, again, because of the tariffs. This is an interesting twist. Her product is almost 100% made here in the US, except for one component. And she is taking in that cost on her own for the time being. But, the uncertainty is leaving her and all other small businesses wondering, how long do I have? So here is Evelyn Wang, the founder of Silverist. Evelyn, welcome to Shoes Off Inside. Good to see you.
Hello.
Thank you so much. I'm so thrilled to be here. I'm so thrilled to be here. Oh my gosh, it's amazing. I've never been together with so many Graysians before. So yeah, it's amazing.
Wait, I've never heard that.
You've never heard that? Graysians. That's the term for us.
We love it.
Wait, we need to start a club.
The Graysian Club. This is the 4 founding members right here.
Oh my God.
There we go.
Yeah, this is really current because on NPR right now, they're having a series on aging and they actually polled people as to what the preferred term is. Is it elders? Is it seniors? Is it senior citizens?
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so, but for us, it's, oh,
Sure.
wow, awesome.
Okay, we're going to go
For
by
us, we'll go with Graysian. Yes.
Yeah, I
yes,
love it.
that'll be our term.
So we love your product. We use it. We're going to put in some more orders. But listen, the reason why we brought you on the show was, of course, to talk about Silverist and how you started. But really, right now, the pressing issue is tariffs, right?
Yes,
and I
for
saw
sure.
an Instagram post that you put up recently talking about how tariffs are affecting you and your company and your product. And you were saying that even though most of your product is US made, one component is made overseas.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the thing that maybe a lot of people don't realize. I have one of my bottles right here, and yay! Even when a product says made in the USA, and this is the case for, I want to say 90% of beauty brands, and I'm sure other consumer packaged goods brands out there, even if it's made in the USA, there's still going to be parts that might come from overseas. So for instance, I get this bottle in the US, I get it printed here, I get the formula developed here and filled here, but this pump comes from China. But most of the product, it still counts as being made in the USA. So right now we're all in this space where we don't know what's happening next. The tariff rules are changing day by day. Small businesses, we can't buffer as well for these fluctuations in costs. You know, I certainly don't have the means to pay like $1 million to a fundraiser so I can get a seat at the table to discuss an exemption for my brand like Apple, you know. So it's going to be something that hits smaller brands and businesses first. And I think that particular Instagram you saw, I was just talking about how for this pump, I paid like 175% tariff on the cost of this.
Explain why it's 175% when the tariff right now with China is 145%.
Yeah, well, that's the thing is like, I didn't even realize until I saw the customs bill from my customs broker that broke out all of the tariffs. So the thing is that there are multiple tariffs in place and they're all additive. So one tariff is this tariff where, you know, the US government's perspective is that there's a trade imbalance. So they're trying to right that. So that's that gigantic 145% tariff we keep hearing about in the news. But at the time, it was like 120%. But there's also another tariff in place that is like basically an executive order tariff for the fentanyl issue. So there's multiple tariffs. So there's actually, at least in the case of China, 3 separate tariffs.
3 separate tariffs. That's why 175.
Correct. Yeah, exactly. So like now that it's 145, it's going to be even north of that. And it differs by product category as well, that all of these tariffs are slightly different.
How is this affecting you right now and your product and your clients and your pricing, all of that? What is happening to you now?
Well, I'm going to eat it for now. So because it's such a big you know, who knows what's going to happen next? And then who knows what's going to happen by the next time I go to produce inventory, etc. The other thing is like right now, a lot of people have inventory right now. So for instance, if you think of making a formula like baking a cake or whatever, you have to buy all of these different ingredients. They're coming from like potentially all over the world. Well, right now people still have those ingredients in their warehouse, in stock. So those things that I'm purchasing right now don't necessarily have an impact. But the next time I go to purchase, that's what I don't know. So it just creates this like very unpredictable scenario to deal with, you know, when you think about the uncertainty. Yeah.
Have you even tried to source in the US and see what the price difference is?
There are limited suppliers in the US, but there are suppliers who can make like injection molded plastic pieces like this. It's just that I'm still a small brand. I'm like, yes, we're growing, but we're still a small brand. So they're not necessarily going to want to work with a smaller indie brand.
Right. So because they're talking about volume.
Exactly. So it's just, again, that like, you know, actually global sourcing in China is what makes it possible for a lot of smaller brands to make it, because these suppliers are so flexible. They have so many capabilities, they can accommodate you. So, yeah, there's definitely just this feeling of like, well, what's going to come next? I think I'm definitely pulling back from, you know, different things to just try to preserve cash, right? Like different someone asked me if I could sponsor you know, an event they were having, and I probably would have said yes, but then I was like, okay, well, I better preserve my cash in case I need it. So it's just making, I think, at least me, be more conservative in how I spend money, you know?
Well, here's the thing. I mean, that's going to have a ripple effect. That's why, you know, this trade war and what's happening with the economy is just so dumb, because it has this ripple effect across, you know, all sectors, all
For
consumers,
sure.
all households. Everyone's going to be pulling back because of the uncertainty, right? So small businesses like yours, Evelyn, and you know, how old are you in terms of your business? Just a couple years old, right?
No, not even. I actually, when I first reached out to you guys at the end of August, that's when I launched. So I launched it end of August last year.
That hasn't even been a
wow.
year.
Yeah, it hasn't even been a year.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
But your business was in the making for a while. I mean, you
Right.
really researched so much into how to care for gray silver hair for years, right? I mean, there was a
Yes,
lot of research and time put into this.
for
Right.
sure. For sure. A lot. Yeah, about two years-ish, plus or minus, where I was actually actively working on it. But even before that, I had been thinking about it for years.
What made you decide?
Yeah,
I mean, did you start
yeah.
going gray early or something?
Yeah, how early did you go
I
gray?
did. I mean, I probably, even as a teenager, I would have like little strands here and there, you know, and people would like pluck them out, like, hey, you've got a gray hair. Yeah, but I didn't actively cover it or anything till I was probably in my 20s. But that was more just like, oh, you know, I want to get highlights, I want to play with color. And then, but by the time I hit my 30s, I was really like, oh, I've got a lot of grays going on. Like I've got to color this hair. So it was the fact that I just had this experience of going gray early. And then professionally, I've grown up in the beauty industry. So it just got to the point where I was like, okay, if I don't, well, one, I had this epiphany. I was like, oh, there really isn't that much out there for natural gray hair. And then I just thought, like, if I don't do this, I'll kick myself in the butt forever. Like the fact that I actually have natural gray hair and I have experience in this actual area, you know, I have to do this. So that's kind of what was the impetus.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, it's such a great product. I mean, and
Thank you.
it's so awesome knowing that women out there are embracing this gray. I get so many compliments on my gray hair all the time from men and women, but especially young women. Young women love it.
For sure, for sure. Yeah, I definitely noticed a generational thing, and I feel like what I love that actually, I love seeing that young women don't necessarily feel like the same mentality that they have to dye their hair, you know, because I definitely felt like I had to do it. Like I didn't think there was a way out, so to speak. So I see the same thing though.
Especially going gray early. I got my first gray hair when I was 12.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
I always say it's because I had a very stressful Korean upbringing. So, because I was raised by a tiger mom. But no, but seriously, yeah, I started but I started coloring in my teens.
Right.
Wow.
So it was kind of spotty in the beginning. And then it started like, you know, sort of spreading. And then, of course, I became a television journalist. So there was no way in hell I was going to go gray.
Right.
Totally.
Until COVID. COVID is when I was like, F this. I cannot deal with this anymore. And I decided to go natural. And that's when the trend started up during COVID. A lot
because nobody could go see their colorist.
Right. Yeah. It's glorious.
And you could also grow it out in peace at home.
The question that I receive the most is like, how can I transition because I want to stop coloring my hair? And I'm not a hairstylist, and we had the benefit of COVID, like we all are saying here. However, I just remember my mother. My mother has super short pixie hair, and when she stopped dyeing her hair, that it was more of a gradual transition because it's so short and pixie-ish. So I guess the go-to answer I have for a lot of women is that you got to cut it short and just let it grow in all salt and peppery.
Actually,
glorious. Yeah.
Actually, what I did was I highlighted, I bleached out like areas, streaks
to transition
where it was already starting to grow, because I grew mine in patches, especially. And so mine still comes in patches. So like this part here, I bleached out what was, what was dyed.
Starting to.
And so it kind of was kind of a mishmash of like silver and that sort of golden kind of bleached out color.
Yeah.
And so you kind of go through a little bit of that awkward stage, but you can still keep your length.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. For those who want to keep their length.
There are definitely people who don't want to cut it short.
Correct.
Yeah, I did kind of that too, Kelly. Well, I don't know. I didn't know what I was doing. I first tried to go blonde, and that actually looked really, really bad on me because I had so much black dye on my hair. So I tried to, in one sitting, have it like bleached out and go blonde because I thought, okay, that'll be less of a stark contrast.
Yeah.
But I ultimately did a gray blending where you have someone like try to match to your roots so it can grow out.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I think when I was trying to transition, I did that too with the bleaching and just blonde. And I was 8 hours in the chair.
Right.
Oh my God.
Right.
Yeah.
For myself. Okay.
Right.
And
it's so uncomfortable.
I know.
It didn't blend because as my gray was starting to grow out, the blonde, it was just totally different.
Yeah.
It didn't work. I didn't think that was a good transition. Now I hear people are specializing in gray blending.
Transitioning, gray blending.
How smart.
Yeah,
exactly.
Over, right? So it's becoming more advanced in terms of like how people are transitioning, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I think this is very important to note. And this is what I learned when I started researching your product, that gray hair, silver hair is very different.
Yes.
The chemistry is different. The structure is different, all of that. So that's why you had to really research how you were going to make this product, right?
Yeah, totally. Well, it's the thing about it is that, it's not even gray. Like the fact that we call it gray, like if you look at your own hair, like you don't really have any strands of individual gray on your head. You have more of these like translucent strands, right? Like the individual strands, when you go to this strand level, they're actually clear strands.
Clear strands, right.
Right. So, because we're Asian, we have this like salt and pepper look. It goes to different colors depending on what your original pigmented hair was. But that lack of pigmentation means that it's lost melanin. And that's actually what gives your hair and skin protection from things like heat and UV damage. So that's a huge part, is that our hair is more sensitive to heat damage. That's why it turns yellow faster if you use really hot heating tools on it. Sometimes people complain about like, oh, I've got that one really coily strand that feels different from the rest of my hair. That's also due to the loss of melanin. So it's actually different.
Your products are definitely catered to the structure.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So,
for sure.
Yeah, and it smells damn good too. I don't
know.
Thank
you.
What do you put in that stuff that makes it smell so
good? What is that scent? What is that scent combination?
It's actually like so there's no artificial fragrance in it, but it's all natural. So it's citrus, apple. Okay, wait, I can't forget this one. Citrus, apple, rosemary, parsley.
Rosemary, right?
And lily of the valley and sage clary. Those are all the notes.
Wow, it's like almost everything you can eat. That's amazing.
They're a bit like aromatherapeutic also, like kind of soothing for the senses.
All right, so so you're less than a year into this business.
I'm less than a year old.
All of a sudden you get this shock from this.
Yes.
What are you thinking? Like, how are you going to go about this? I mean, it's a waiting game, obviously.
Yeah.
Right.
How long can you wait? I mean, that's the thing for all these small businesses. I think they're wondering, how long can I stick it out?
Right. Well, I know. I think so. And I see a lot of sad stories already from people saying, when I'm done with this inventory, I'm done with my business. I feel like, okay, because most of my component is not from China, that's for one thing that I will be a little bit less susceptible, because I already had made the intention to try to make things in the US as much as I could. But I'm also just thinking about like maybe I should start manufacturing in Canada, and maybe that would be a way for me to navigate this because I could bring components into Canada and have it assembled in Canada, and then it could come into the US maybe as a made in Canada product. So I think that's what a lot of like, big companies are able to do that, right? Like again, Apple's like, oh, we're going to import stuff from India instead. I mean, I can't do that on the same scale, but I think it's like the same um, pivot on a more micro indie level where it's like, okay, I currently make things here in the US, but maybe I should make things, in Canada. Which I guess shows it doesn't really work because the whole point was trying to encourage more industry and business and jobs in the US. And instead, I'm like, how can I go to Canada and make this and bring it here? So,
and you would still incur a 25% tariff from Canada, right? So there would.
I would, but I would just have to think about. I would just have to think about sourcing completely differently. Like, for instance, like I buy this bottle in the US, like could I buy this bottle in China for a cheaper price, land it in Canada, and then manufacture there? So it's just, honestly, it's just doing a lot of math. It's just like all these scenarios going da 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 in my brain, and I'll have to like put it all on paper and compare it. So
here's what's unfair, and you mentioned this earlier, and I kind of laughed about it, but let's go back to it. You said, you don't have $1 million to donate to a certain so-and-so, somebody in a very powerful position to then get certain favors, right? And go through the sort of like, what is it called? The carve out, right? So these big companies, like these big tech companies, are going to Mar-a-Lago and donating $1 million, $10 million, whatever, to get the carve out of the tariffs, right?
Right.
So it's so unfair. I mean, like, I'm stating the obvious. It's just so fucking unfair that small businesses, you guys are the meat and potatoes,
the backbone,
right? And you are getting fucked. And these big jillionaires are going to get a carve out because they can make a big donation. Like that must piss you off.
Yeah, I mean, yes, trust me, I'm like actually, yes, I think about this a lot. Right now I'm feeling pretty calm about it because you can only, I know you have to like sustain the righteous anger, right? Because you can't just give up. But after you think about something for so long, you're just like, okay, there's so much chaos. How can I just think of how to navigate through it? Because what else are you going to do, right? Like I'm not going to like, are we just supposed to all stop? Like all small businesses, we should just stop, right? We believe in our businesses. We have something we're trying to accomplish. So you still have to just figure out how to move forward. And I think actually a really fundamental point is like, so many people still don't understand that Americans pay for the tariffs, like, right? At the very kind of
it's
like
pretty basic.
Yes, that's like the whole, I mean, that's the whole 101 of this is like,
well,
it's
that's
not actually
China.
because we're not punishing China. We're not punishing China, right?
The latest data is showing that even though imports have dropped, from China to the U.S., they're not hurting as much as U.S. exports to China, right? So the imbalance is already showing where China has already made up some of their losses with other countries, right? So China's not hurting, right? They're hurting kind of, but they're not.
They're hurting a little bit, but it's like they have so many other trading partners,
Right. It's a psychological thing too. I find it's interesting the decline of the pride of American manufacturing, of American made products that are union fair wage paying. I think that's a shift that we need to kind of get back to, because it's the convenience, it's the immediacy of having cheaper made things that are overseas usually, because it's that sense of what can we do to reinvest in our own country, in our own nation,
I
for the
think
products that we want and need.
I think the problem is also that economically,
Yeah.
we are suffering as a country.
Yeah.
And people are already paying so much for food and housing, and products are already getting more and more expensive. And now you do this tariffs, and sure, maybe it does create a few more jobs here in the United States, but who's going to be able to afford it?
Right.
Okay. Here's the thing. I want to take a poll. I think online. I might do this because I honestly want to ask this question. If we brought manufacturing back like Donald Trump is saying he's going to, right? Cars, auto plants, and things that are made in China, that who is going to actually want to work that job?
Exactly. Yeah.
You tell me what Gen Zer is going to want that job in a factory. You tell me who's going to be on that factory floor making these products that the Chinese, and then you tell me who's going to be willing to have a factory that's spewing out pollution, air pollution, water pollution, whatever it takes to create that product.
Right.
You tell me who in the United States is going to be willing to take on that burden. I would venture to say that percentage would be one digit. Like there's no way anybody's going to want to agree to that.
Right.
So we have exported the shit stuff to these other countries. And that's what Americans need to understand. It's just like, you're saying you want these jobs back, you want manufacturing back, you better then be ready for what that means. So let's bring it back to you, Evelyn.
So yeah, Evelyn, have you been consulting with other small business friends, owners, associates, and in terms of how we can all band together and fight this, or I guess that's the next question I think May, Kelly, and I would like to ask is like, how can we help you help do what you do, and other small businesses that you might be in alignment with?
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's definitely top of mind for every other small business owner. I mean, it's not even, I mean, every other business owner, you know, my friends that I talk to, everyone's talking about, are they going to do price increases? Is that really going to be the right thing? Will that be, will people be able to pay the price increases? Yeah, I don't know. For small businesses, I think to me, that's what is lacking. Like I would love to see, like, why isn't there a carve out for small businesses in terms of like, hey, if your revenue is under, I don't know, I think the definition of a small business is like under 3 million officially or something like that. So if your revenue is under this, then you actually are exempt from the tariffs. Like I wish I think there should be, if it's genuine about this is for the purpose of stimulating the economy ultimately, then I feel like there should be something in place that protects small businesses, like a carve out. And I've kind of yet to see that. But
I like that.
That's what I'd like to see. Yeah.
That's actually a really good idea.
Yeah, entrepreneurship is what makes this country, you know, the dream, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But remember, we're watching a kleptocracy develop, where only the very rich top few.
I mean, I guess the plan is that I should quit my company and go work at a factory putting things together. You know, that's the dream. I don't know. But
no, like I said, you ask any Gen Z or anybody who in college right now, would you like to go work in a factory? I'm sure the answer is going to be fuck no. So I'm not.
Yeah, and they're going to automate all that too.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Actually, I think another thought is I think a lot of Gen Zers or young people want to create a product that's so successful that a bigger company buys them out. That feels like that's the trend.
I mean, I'd like that too.
Yeah, exactly. That would be your
But you had a good point, Evelyn, about automation. You know, people, it's not going to create jobs. It's not as though, you know, these factories coming in are going to be hiring more people, because like you said, it's everything is going to be automated. Wasn't it Andrew Yang, when he was running for president, said that you're not losing your jobs to immigrants, you're losing it to automation.
Yeah. Let me ask you a practical question. How much time do you think you have, Evelyn? How long do you think you can hold out? Do you know?
I mean, I feel like, I just ordered new inventory. Maybe I'm too optimistic. I actually feel like I will be okay because I'm already thinking through other pivots. Like I have inventory coming in, and then for the next batch, do I decide to make it in Canada to see if that helps to mitigate some of these things? Like who knows, maybe tomorrow the tariff will be like 300%.
Yeah.
And then, yes, then I'll be applying for a factory job. But I feel like I'm gonna, Silverist, we're gonna weather this storm, so I feel okay about it, but it's definitely tighter than
Yeah.
it would have been. It's definitely more stressful than
Sure.
it would have been if it had just been not so crazy. So,
Yeah. It makes me happy that you're so hopeful and you're
Mhm.
optimistic.
There's no such thing as being too optimistic.
Yeah.
Because you're
No.
practical minded as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. Of course.
So,
Of course.
all right. So one last thing then, is there anything that we can do to help you? Obviously we rave about your product.
Oh my
We'll
gosh.
put a link.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll put a
Thank
link,
you.
of course. But is there anything else that our audience should know at this point about your situation or any, what's going on?
I mean, I would just say, putting your wallet where your belief system is probably the most important way you can help any small business right now. And just know that, when you shop a small business, it's going to that person and their family and their employees versus,
A
the
billionaire's
bigger,
yacht or something?
Yeah.
a billionaire's second yacht, or I don't know, 10th yacht, whatever,
Right,
something like
right.
that.
Yeah.
right?
And
it's the
also
thought.
people should know that even though we're all Asian women with gray hair on this podcast, it is not a product that is made specifically for Asian hair.
No.
It is
Right,
made for
right.
gray hair.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, actually when I developed the products, I actually tested them. Every single product was tested on over 100 women prior to launch. And that sample included every hair type. They had to have like at least 30% natural gray hair, and they had every hair type from like 1A, which is bone straight, all the way through 4C, which is the most textured hair. So it's truly made for all hair types.
Wow.
Too.
So it's the shampoo, it's a conditioner, and then it's
And
the
it's the
serum.
that's the serum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shampoo, conditioner, and then there's this guy here that's a leave-in
Which is
serum.
really important when you use the heat, right?
For sure.
Yeah.
Like that.
For sure. Yeah.
I learned something today.
Yeah. Well, Evelyn, we want all the best for you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Because we don't want Silverist to go away. So.
We don't want it to go away.
But thank you so much for sharing your story.
Thank you.
And,
You're so welcome. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely rooting
Thank
for
you.
Okay. All right. Take care.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Aloha.
Aloha.
Okay. Thank you so much, Evelyn. All right. Again, we cannot stress enough how much we love this product.
And thank you for the term. Thank you for the we embrace term of Grasians.
I swear I'm putting it on a t-shirt. We're all going to get Grasian t-shirts.
I think we should start like a club or something. That's just freaking awesome.
Yeah.
Okay.
I love it.
Anyway, but yeah, so we do love the product, but we also
do love the product. Yeah.
We want to support these small businesses,
Yeah.
It's like, I know you hear that often, but people kind of don't follow through on it. But now more than ever, because of what everyone's going through, I think it's really, really important to be much more conscious of what we're
using, what we're consuming, what we're buying. Right.
That's right. Because it's that every dollar of that product is going to make a bigger difference to someone like Evelyn and, Eleanor versus somebody like Jeff Bezos. Let's be honest. Right?
Yeah.
So, but thank you to both of them for sharing their stories. I think it's really, really important to hear directly from people who are being impacted. Right. And just one last comment, of course, Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day.
Yeah,
Happy Mother's Day.
you guys been seeing these videos that are being put out by nurses in hospitals?
What?
No, what are you talking
And
of?
remember, it's Mother's Day, and they're showing like the size of an epidural needle, and
Oh,
like
yeah.
forceps, and like all these things that mothers have
That
gone
mothers have gone through to
through.
birth their.
You know, I think it's brilliant. It's
Wow.
It's so fun. It's so funny.
yeah.
That's right. That's right. That's
So
right.
we should
Wow.
all be very grateful for
Yeah.
what our mothers went through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a pain. They say, I forgot how much it hurt to birth you. But yeah.
How? That is just, that to me is like the biggest miracle of life, I suppose.
Right. Yeah.
You know, like the fact that you can go through so much pain and pregnancies too, like terrible pregnancies, and then all of a sudden your baby's born and some chemical erases all of
like,
that.
Erase. Hello.
Erase.
Yeah.
No, I don't believe it either, because my mom still tells me that my birth was a nightmare. Like,
oh my gosh. Oh,
I was so big. I was 8 pounds, 12 ounces.
Oh, that's big.
Wow.
Like I didn't grow much after that. So, so imagine that 8 pound, 12 ounces coming out of a tiny little Korean woman.
Yeah. Wow.
So there was a lot of bleeding. I mean, she did not do well.
She wants you to feel bad about that for your entire life.
Yeah, for your entire life. Yeah.
Of course.
Of course. Of course.
Asian guilt. Yes, for sure.
Wow.
But yeah, but we're all fortunate that our mothers are still with us.
Yes.
Sometimes they're a big pain in the ass, but we love them because of everything that they, of course, have done for us.
Yes.
And to all mothers and mothers of children here and mothers of children who are not with us, but also persons who act as mothers for other persons. That's what we want to really acknowledge and uplift. So happy Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day.
We love you, Mom.
Yes.
We love you, Mom.
Thanks for watching the show, Shoes Off Inside. Please subscribe to us on YouTube, follow us on Instagram, and give us a good rating. We love that.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yes, please. Yes,
All
please.
right. Okay. Ladies.
Thank you, ladies.
All right. Bye,
Bye.
everyone.
Aloha. Aloha.